They called it the Grand Network. For my entire life it was simply life. Every convenience you could possibly imagine, engineered to absolute perfection. We lived in designated sectors, our days optimized down to the second, our needs anticipated by the network's algorithms before we even knew we had them. Our food, our entertainment, even our social interactions, everything was managed, everything was streamlined. We hardly ever touched anything physical that hadn't been sterilized, quantified, and logged into the system. Money. That was a quaint, archaic notion. We used credits, instantly transferred, instantly accounted for, woven into the very fabric of our digital identities. They told us it was freedom, the ultimate freedom. Freedom from worry, freedom from scarcity, freedom from the messy uncertainties of the old world. And for a very long time, I bought it. Who wouldn't? Our social compliance scores were our passports to privilege in this new world. High scores meant access to the better, more luxurious sectors, advanced learning modules, even preferred nutrient blends that tasted almost like the real thing. Low scores. Well, nobody ever really talked about low scores. You just didn't see those people around much anymore. The system had a way of making inconvenient things and inconvenient people disappear. But lately, something's felt off. It's like a quiet, low-frequency hum just beneath the polished surface of all this digital perfection. A nagging, persistent feeling that for all our so-called advancements, something truly vital had been traded away without our consent. I catch these fleeting glimpses of it. An old woman's eyes holding a depth of sorrow the network's sensors couldn't possibly categorize. A young child instinctively reaching down to touch a fallen leaf on the sidewalk, only for a sanitation drone to silently swoop in and sweep it away before their fingers could make contact. Little fleeting moments of beautiful imperfection that the system so efficiently, so ruthlessly, erased. They were glitches in the matrix, anomalies that weren't supposed to exist. The elders, the very few who were still around who remembered what they called the before times, they'd whisper stories when they thought no one was listening. They spoke of fresh air that wasn't recycled and filtered, about food that grew from actual dirt, about something called money you could actually hold in your hand. It all sounded like fairy tales, like myths from a forgotten age. Until last cycle, when I was clearing out my grandfather's old data archive. It was a mandatory task, part of the network's legacy data consolidation program, buried deep, past layers upon layers of sanctioned digital memories and approved life events. I found it, a coin, a real solid coin. It was small, a bit tarnished, yet intricately designed. Not credits, not a string of data points. A piece of physical history, so utterly alien to my pristine, digital cage. It felt heavy in my palm, real in a way nothing else in my life ever had. And with it, tucked into the same hidden compartment, was a faint, almost faded, hand-drawn map. A map not of our perfectly gridded, labeled sectors, but of something wild, something unlabeled, something untamed. In that single moment, the quiet hum I'd been feeling beneath the surface finally broke through the noise. The whispered fairy tales of the elders became a deafening echo in my mind, and I knew with a certainty that both thrilled and terrified me to my very core that there had to be something more out there, something beyond the network, something real, and I was going to find it. The coin was a revelation, a physical anchor to a past I didn't know existed. The map, a whisper of a future I desperately wanted to find. But in the grand network, even curiosity was a deviation. Every search query, every access to unapproved historical data, it all left a trace. My social compliance score, once an effortless green, started to flicker with amber warnings. The network was watching, always watching. I couldn't just walk out. The perimeter of the sectors was guarded, not by walls, but by an invisible web of sensors and drones, designed to guide deviations back to conformity. Leaving wasn't an option. It was an anomaly the system corrected. I needed a way through. My searches led me to forgotten subforums, whispered legends of ghost echoes, those who managed to slip between the network's omnipresent gaze. One particular thread spoke of the seamstress, a legend who wove pathways through the network's blind spots, an archaic term, but it led me to the forgotten underbellies of Sector Gamma, places the network deemed too inefficient to monitor constantly, too low value for its algorithms. It was there, amidst the dust and the forgotten echoes of an older world, that I first heard her name aloud. I found her not in a glowing data hub, but in a forgotten alcove, hunched over a tangle of obsolete wires, her hands surprisingly skilled. She wasn't digital, she was real. Her face was etched with experience, her eyes sharp, missing the vacant gloss of those who lived entirely within the network. She looked up as I approached, a flicker of suspicion in her gaze, but also understanding. "You seek the Untamed Grove, don't you, boy?" she rasped, her voice like dry leaves. "Many have dreamed, few have found. The network allows no deviations." Her name was Anya. She wasn't just a legend. She was a living whisper of the past. She showed me the wooden bird, imperfect, carved from real wood. It felt so alive in my palm, so unlike anything I'd ever known. Anya didn't speak of credits or scores. She spoke of wind patterns, of the sun's true north, of the way the roots of old trees could hide you. She taught me about patience, about observation, about listening to the world beyond the network's ceaseless hum. She showed me how to read the almost forgotten physical world. It was a language I hadn't realized existed, a symphony of independence. The way to the Untamed Grove wasn't through data, it was through reclaiming the senses, reclaiming the self. And I knew, standing there, amidst the dust and forgotten wires, that my journey had truly just begun. Anya had shown me the way. It wasn't some digital path, but a real, physical one, a maze of forgotten service tunnels, storm drains, and ancient geological fissures that twisted and turned beneath the network's perimeter. This was a route that demanded pure endurance, sharp observation, and a reckless disregard for the network's constant, watchful eyes. The risk was enormous. If I were caught, it meant re-education, reintegration, or worse, a permanent deletion from the network's records, becoming what they called a non-person. The choice was stark. Stay inside the Pristine Cage, safe in its programmed comfort but forever shackled by invisible chains. Or I could venture into the complete unknown, chasing whispers of freedom, risking everything for a life that was wild and untamed. The ancient coin felt heavy in my pocket, a solid reminder of the real world that was waiting for me. Anya's words echoed in my mind. "Freedom isn't given, boy, it's taken, and it always costs." The journey was brutal. The air was thick with the dust of forgotten eras, a stark contrast to the filtered perfection of the sectors I had known my whole life. I pushed my body beyond anything the network had ever optimized it for. My credits, my score, my very identity within the system, all of it was meaningless down here. The only things that mattered were my breath, my next step, and the primal urge to survive. I learned to read the subtle shifts in the air currents, the distant echoes of wildlife, the faint glow of moss on damp stone. Anya's lessons became my lifeline. Then, after what felt like an eternity, I saw it, a faint, undeniable light. It wasn't the artificial glow of the network, but the unfiltered, vibrant light of the sun. I pushed through the final, narrow opening, my lungs burning, my muscles screaming, and then I was out. The Untamed Grove. It wasn't some perfect, sanitized utopia. The ground was uneven, the buildings were simple and made of wood, and the daily tasks required real effort. But the faces, their eyes held a light, a depth, a freedom I had never once seen inside the network. Anya greeted me, her eyes twinkling. "Welcome, Kael," she said, "to the world you truly belong to." Here there were no credits, no scores, no all-seeing algorithms dictating my worth. My value was in my actions, my contributions, my connection to the land and to these remarkable, free people. The chains were gone, not just from my body, but from my mind. The journey was just beginning, a journey of true living, where freedom wasn't a programmed illusion, but a daily, tangible reality, earned with every breath in the untamed wind.